James Arness, the towering star of Gunsmoke, once called a co-star truly evil, a statement that shocked fans at the time. For years, the public had no idea what could have caused such strong feelings. Behind the cameras, tensions were high, creative differences ran deep, and personal clashes simmered for decades. Yet none of it ever showed on screen. Join us as we dig into the real story behind James Arness's intense dislike for this co-star and uncover what really went on behind the scenes. A television gamble. The story of Gunsmoke didn't begin on television. It started on radio in 1952, when families gathered to listen instead of watch. The show stood out by focusing on realism, tough decisions, and the harsh American frontier. At its center was William Conrad, whose deep, steady voice made Marshal Matt Dillon feel strong, fair, and believable. With such success on radio, CBS saw a bigger opportunity. In 1955, the network moved Gunsmoke to television. This created a major challenge. Radio relied on sound, but television required a strong visual presence. Producers felt Conrad's appearance didn't match the image they wanted. They needed someone tall and commanding. Replacing Conrad meant risking the identity that made the show popular, but CBS believed television demanded a different kind of presence. The casting pivot. At one point, the role was offered to John Wayne, one of Hollywood's biggest Western stars. He turned it down. Television required a demanding schedule, and he was committed to his film career. But Wayne still believed in the show. He recommended his friend James Arness. At the time, Arness was not a major star, but he had the physical presence producers wanted. He was tall, serious, and carried himself perfectly. Wayne even appeared on screen to personally introduce Arness in the first episode. His popularity gave the new series instant credibility. Once the show began, Arness quickly proved the casting was right. He didn't copy Conrad's version. Instead, he brought his own quiet, steady, and strong style. Over time, he made the role completely his own. But what audiences didn't know was that Arness brought real-life scars that would shape everything. Scars of war. Before Gunsmoke, James Arness served in the U.S. Army's 3rd Infantry Division during World War II. He fought in the Battle of Anzio in Italy. Just days after landing, he was severely wounded by German machine gun fire. He suffered damage to his leg and foot, requiring a long recovery. He was awarded the Purple Heart and Bronze Star. In August 2025, the U.S. Department of War featured Arness in a Purple Heart Day tribute, honoring his sacrifice alongside other wounded veterans. The recognition reminded a new generation that the stoic lawman of Dodge City was first a wounded soldier. These injuries never fully healed. As the years passed, Arness dealt with constant pain in his legs and feet. By the time he starred in Gunsmoke, the pain was a regular part of daily life. The production team made adjustments, scheduling movement-heavy scenes earlier in the day and planning shots carefully. Despite this, Arness rarely complained. His measured movements and controlled expressions made viewers see a strong lawman, not a man in discomfort. Over time, the pain did affect his mood, especially during long shoots. It made him more tired and less patient. Still, he never let it affect his performance. His dedication maintained the character's consistency throughout the show's long run. The perfect ensemble. As Gunsmoke settled into its television run, a strong group of supporting actors helped build Dodge City. Milburn Stone played Doc Adams, adding wisdom and humor. Dennis Weaver played Chester, the loyal deputy whose kindness gave the show warmth. After Weaver left, Ken Curtis stepped in as Festus, bringing rougher energy. But one of the most important figures was Amanda Blake as Miss Kitty. She ran the Long Branch Saloon and was one of the few strong female characters on television. On screen, she was confident, independent, and respected. Her presence added depth, especially in scenes with Matt Dillon. Miss Kitty's character changed when the show moved from radio to television. In the radio version, her background was more complicated. But 1950s television had strict rules, so her character was softened. She was presented as a respectable business owner. This made the show more suitable for families while giving Blake the chance to shape Miss Kitty into a layered character. She brought warmth, intelligence, and quiet strength. Fans connected with her, and she became essential to the series. On the surface, everything seemed perfect. But behind that strong chemistry, not every relationship was as smooth as it appeared. The romance. One of the most talked about parts of Gunsmoke was the quiet relationship between Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty. They cared about each other, trusted each other, and shared meaningful moments. But their relationship never became official. It stayed close but never clearly defined. This slow burn dynamic kept viewers curious. The show never gave a direct answer. They were not openly a couple, but they were more than friends. Television in the 1950s and 1960s followed strict guidelines. Making the relationship too direct could have caused problems with network standards. By keeping things subtle, the show avoided controversy while still telling emotional stories. The writers gave just enough to keep interest alive but never enough to resolve the situation. This created steady tension throughout the series. What made it work was how believable it felt. The connection came across as genuine, calm and natural. On screen, it looked like a strong bond built on trust. But off-screen, the reality between the actors was far more complicated. The feud begins. While Gunsmoke looked calm on screen, tension grew between James Arness and Amanda Blake. Small differences in personality and working style slowly created distance. Those who worked on the show later shared that the two did not have a close personal relationship off-camera. Conversations were often limited to what was necessary for filming. There were reports that Arness privately expressed he would prefer Blake to leave the show. These feelings were never made public during the series' run. Despite this, both actors remained highly professional when the cameras rolled. When filming scenes together, they delivered performances that felt natural and full of emotion. Viewers saw warmth and connection. Nothing in their acting suggested conflict. The cast and crew described the relationship as polite but distant. There was no open hostility, but there also wasn't the easy friendship that other cast members shared. What made this striking was the contrast between what audiences saw and what was happening. On screen, Matt and Kitty shared quiet moments suggesting deep emotional bonds. Off-screen, the actors kept their distance. Even during press events, both maintained a respectful image. They spoke positively about the show. From the outside, it all looked perfectly controlled. But as time went on, deeper issues would surface. Struggle for control. As Gunsmoke moved into the 1960s, Arness gained real influence behind the scenes. Producers trusted his judgment. He became involved in decisions about scripts, character direction, and even casting. At the same time, Blake had developed a deep understanding of Miss Kitty. She wanted to explore deeper emotional layers, especially in Kitty's relationship with Matt. This is where disagreements began. Arness preferred to keep the show grounded. He believed Matt Dillon should remain focused on being a lawman, with his personal life in the background. Keeping the relationship subtle was part of what made it work. Blake wanted to move things forward. She believed that after so many years, the connection should become clearer. She pushed for more direct emotional moments. These different views led to tension during production. Writers and directors found themselves in the middle, trying to balance both perspectives. Some episodes leaned toward emotional storytelling while others returned to Arness's restrained approach. The situation affected the atmosphere on set. Underlying pressure existed whenever scenes involving Matt and Kitty were discussed or filmed. Even with these challenges, both actors remained committed to delivering strong performances. But these creative differences added another layer to their already complicated relationship. Personality clash. Beyond creative disagreements, the tension came down to personality. Arness was quiet and private. When not filming, he often kept to himself, preferring his dressing room or short breaks alone. He took his work seriously and liked staying focused. Blake was outgoing and enjoyed being around people. She often talked with the cast and crew between takes, believing that building off-camera relationships could improve on-camera performances. These opposite styles led to small issues. Blake might try to lighten the mood during breaks, while Arness might not respond. He wasn't unfriendly, he simply preferred quiet. But this difference could be misunderstood. Blake may have seen his distance as lack of interest, while Arness may have found her approach distracting. Over time, these small differences built up. What started as minor misunderstandings turned into ongoing tension. Each actor stayed professional, but the gap grew wider. They worked together because they had to, not because they shared the same approach. The long production schedule made things worse. Spending so much time together without resolving differences added pressure. Fame, power, and resentment. As Gunsmoke grew in popularity, the spotlight didn't stay on just one character. Blake's role as Miss Kitty expanded. What began as a supporting part became more central to the show's emotional core. Writers gave her more screen time, stronger dialogue, and deeper storylines. Fans responded strongly. Miss Kitty was independent and confident. For many viewers, especially women, she became one of the most relatable characters on the show. Blake's popularity began to rise. She was featured more often in interviews, magazine articles, and promotional material. This growing attention created a shift. Arness was still the central figure, but he was no longer the only focus. Some reports suggested this change caused discomfort for Arness, who had carried the show from the beginning. While he never spoke about this in detail, the situation could naturally create tension. In long-running shows, changes in audience attention affect how actors feel about their roles. When a supporting character gains equal or greater recognition, it shifts the balance within the cast. Power didn't stay fixed, and even small changes could impact relationships behind the scenes. Pain and breaking point. By the time Gunsmoke had been on the air for several years, the work had become extremely demanding. The show could produce up to 40 episodes per year, long days, tight schedules, little rest. For Arness, it was even harder. He wasn't just dealing with production stress. He was living with old war injuries that never healed. As the years passed, his pain worsened. His knees, feet, and legs often gave him trouble, especially during long shooting days. What may have looked like tiredness or a bad mood was often physical suffering. When a person is in pain every day, patience runs short. This added to the tension on set. The show also asked a lot emotionally. His scenes with Blake carried quiet feelings and personal moments. If Arness was dealing with pain and fatigue, those moments felt harder to manage. Blake, who wanted more emotional depth, may have expected warmth he did not always have the energy to give. Arness was private and stoic. He kept much of his suffering to himself. That meant people around him may not have understood why he seemed distant or short-tempered. Without clear communication, small moments could be taken the wrong way. The result was a stressful environment with many layers: the pressure of a top-rated show, a heavy filming schedule, chronic pain, and emotional demands. By the mid-1970s, after nearly 2 decades on Gunsmoke, Amanda Blake left the show. She had spent 19 seasons portraying Miss Kitty. Her departure was not the result of disputes with Arness or the production team, but a personal choice. Blake wanted to focus on her family life and step away from the demanding schedule of a long-running television series. The 70th Anniversary Legacy. In September 2025, Gunsmoke celebrated its 70th anniversary. MeTV hosted a month-long marathon. According to Nielsen data from January 2025, Gunsmoke was one of the most-watched legacy TV series in 2024, with over 10 billion minutes of viewing time. The show's long-lasting success has helped set the stage for modern Western hits like Yellowstone and the 2025 Netflix miniseries American Primeval. While the partnership between Arness and Blake had its difficulties, the world they created together carried on for fans old and new. The evil James Arness referred to may not have been true malice, but rather the friction of 2 strong personalities, different working styles, and the immense pressure of television history. If you found this peek behind the scenes fascinating, hit that like button and join us as we dive even deeper into Hollywood's most iconic TV dramas.